Something that I try to do um, in life and not just in art is try to say things or express things in a way that works, that is interpretable, that I think will would be interpretable in the way that I mean it, for the largest possible conceptual space of people that could exist or that have existed or whatever. Yeah, that's a tall order, but in a lot of ways, I find that I learn a lot from trying to do this. I find there's a lot of it feels wise, and maybe it is wise, but it feels wise to think, okay, my audience that I'm communicating to or with isn't just who happens to be in the room with me, or who I happen to be talking with, or the target demographic on a larger scale, or the target demographic plus other people who might potentially hear what I'm saying or take it out of context or use my words against me, or people from the far past who have completely different worldviews, or people from the far future who are looking at whatever I'm saying historically. Um, Now, of course, by using language, I am speaking in English, and so this isn't perfect, but in concept, the idea is to be to say what I'm saying without leaving room for misinterpretation. That either somebody would hear what I'm saying or read what I'm writing. This is medium in specific, and either get the gist of what I'm saying, or it would just be gobbledygook. It would be uninterpretable. Um, so if somebody doesn't speak any English, then okay, cool, they're out. They're out of the picture of if I'm saying something in English, I need them. I want to frame it in a way where they'll understand it because that's silliness. That's not a real thing. But anybody who, if they learned English or if what I was saying were translated, that it would work as much as possible. And of course, this is not an achievable goal, and that way lies madness or silence or both. Um, and I think I've definitely indulged in silence to suit this many times, or indulged in whimsy of, I think, Dadaism and Lewis Carroll and anything that's full of silly. Um, I think definitely has poetry in a lot of ways. Well, a lot of types of poetry that includes nonsense specifically to avoid making definitive statements that could be interpreted in any specific way because, well, it was nonsense anyway, and if you want to read into it, you can. So, um, you know, I think a great phrase for this is well, not for that exactly, but for instead of instead of deferring to the nonsense route, going to the silence route, there's the je ne sais quoi. The I cannot say. There's the who's to say? There's the kind of general gesture at the world around of, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm not too great. Well, why? I mean, general gesture to the room of the world. Like there isn't translating that because um, it's also very hard to argue with. It's hard to be wrong when one's answer is things in general are why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Where one could say, any specific thing and believe it or it be true, but I definitely, there's so much nuance to how, oh, that's another part of it. Um, is a lot of times there are concepts that are so, it would take volumes for me to honestly answer, how are you doing today? Because nuance of emotion and depth of feeling, etc. But when asked how one's doing and giving kind of a an answer and being asked why or what's up, or I find that just general appeals to appeal to the environment. Ooh, I kind of like that actually. Of um, you, kind of an acknowledgement of, well, actually explaining would be imprecise, take too long, and probably not succeed anyway. One can just gesture of, I feel this way because the world. And I find that generally works and it's hard to misinterpret. I wanted to add to that, so I added some extra video here so I could talk more because I realize that is one aspect of communication that I value and try to pursue. But the other one is, well, okay. And I think it's largely driven by fear of well, if my words can be misinterpreted, they can be misinterpreted, and that's scary. And maybe that'll be used against me, or maybe I'll share information that I thought was going to be received one way and it's received another way, and what if that harms somebody? But then I think it illustrates why it can be important to have a private setting of really getting into the nitty gritty of those details with somebody, knowing that they're the only audience, because you can say things that are easily misinterpreted. So I guess that's kind of my public voice versus my private voice. I don't know if I like that taxonomy, but I think that kind of gets at the well, I now I'm getting more specific, and it's in a public venue on YouTube and for posterity. Oh dear. Yeah, the it's being perceived is scary because you never know what people are going to do with it, and you never know what effect it'll have on them. Well, I don't, and I find both of those very intimidating, which is honestly, I think these videos are an exercise in me managing that, because I know I'm trying to face my fears. Like, all right, adding even more video so that I can talk more. Um, oh, yeah, this is a big topic for me. I think, yeah, it is in many ways driven by fear, but also there is a wisdom to um, it. I think, but something I've been really working on is realizing that being misinterpreted and misunderstood is part of being perceived. It's part of being a genuine person and expressing oneself. And as terrifying as that is, I if I want to be, if I want the validation of acceptance for who I am, I have to present who I am. I can't present who I think is wise or who I think is clever or eh, it's a human condition. Um, yeah, um, that being rejected or misinterpreted or people insisting on misunderstanding or accidentally misunderstanding, that is all a cost, but it is a cost, perhaps, hopefully, I think, maybe, worth um, uh, being accepted for who one genuinely is, for having people see and hear who I am, or, I mean, identity is a messy and complicated issue, but one fundamentally, it kind of comes down to the classic: you can't be accepted unless you're open to being rejected. Yeah, so maybe it's not as wise as I thought. Hmm. Maybe it is. I don't know.